Hutton Hup, and welcome to another edition of My Racehorse Live. Nick Hines, the Sarge, reporting for duty on this Friday, March 26, 2021. It's been a wild month, of course, with March Madness, if you've been paying attention to the collegiate basketball, but of course, the madness in reference to the horse side of things. Of course, with My Racehorse, we've been on the road with sales season in full swing, having spent some valuable time with the team at the recent concluded Ocala Breeder Sale. But we've got an exciting weekend ahead. Not only the fact that we've got a tremendous show for you today, and of course, looking forward to the weekend tomorrow with the unveiling of American Heiress. That's right, at last, making her debut. And of course, she has been a My Racehorse favorite from the get-go. On that note, let's welcome in the team. Operations Manager Joe Mishak, of course, the hostess with the mostest, all things social, Hannah Bloom, and our West Coast Racing Manager, Joe Moran. Good day, everyone.
Hello.
Good day, Nick.
How's it going?
Excited to be back.
Definitely feels good to be back. It's been a few weeks, but I see someone's commenting on your hat collection, Nick, and I agree. I think that's probably your best hat yet, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully the expenses can continue to come in for the hat collection via our operations manager, Joe Mishak. Michael Barron's got to check off, and I continue to bring these brilliant hats. Hopefully they make me appear smarter and make me a better handicapper. That's all I ask for. But it is indeed a tremendous weekend, and quickly wanted to touch on it. Of course, Joe Mishak, I know that you've been in direct contact with many of the partners, over 2,000 partners with American Heiress. We're going to get into that race, but quickly, in X amount of words, how can you put into the fact that she debuts tomorrow and the anticipation that we have?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, we talked about it before. This is one of these cases where the excitement, starts from when you sign a ticket at the sale. That we got this gorgeous daughter of American Pharaoh, obviously a stallion that everybody can get behind. And obviously, we knew she wouldn't be such an early type, but we were hoping kind of towards the end of last year. Obviously, in most cases, what you have with 2-year-olds is they're inevitably going to have a setback, whether it's a My Racehorse horse or whether you own your horse on your own. And she did. She had a couple minor setbacks. We had to be patient with her. But as soon as she kind of got over those, first little bit of speed bumps, she's been training, lights out down at King's Equine, and then she hasn't missed a beat once she got into Todd's barn earlier this year. And now it's the culmination of it, and we're excited to get her career kicked off tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt. And a big tip of the cap to Raul Reyes and his entire team out at King's Equine as far as getting her on that road to hopefully victory. And, of course, Todd Pletcher doing a tremendous job. We appreciate his updates and his entire staff. All right, we're going to touch on that race here in a moment. It is the 7th race on the card. I want to remind you that we will have a watch party for you, and I'm glad to announce that I will be hosting that. So look forward to that at approximately 11 a.m. Pacific tomorrow, 2 o'clock for you Easterners. All right, we're going to jump right into things here as far as just a checkup, if you will, and an update. Joe Moran, I know that you've been closely associated with our West Coast group, including Richard Baltus, in reference to a Vertical Threat. He made his way back to the track. And what's the latest with Vertical Threat? That son of Tapinger, who was last seen winning impressively the Steel Valley Sprint back on November 23rd.
Yeah, so Vertical Threat got back into San Luis Rey, I want to say, just about 8 or 9 days ago. Here's a video that Mr. Baltus sent us this morning or yesterday morning. And you'll see the horse looks great. And the commentary, when you get to hear it on the app, go check out the video on the app. He'll say he still looks a little raw from the farm, which is expected when he's hanging out in the farm, not really getting that daily exercise. Now he's back in the swing of things. He's got a week of jogging under him. He'll probably have another about 5 days. Richard said about 3 or 4, but my guess how it always usually works, he'll have about another 5 days of jogging, and then he'll start up galloping, where he'll get 2 to 3 weeks of galloping in, and then hopefully before you know it, he'll be back on the work tab, and knock on wood, we'll have a nice, fun 2021 with him.
So he's back down at the home base at San Luis Rey, and you can see the backdrop there. And according to Richard, he seems to think this is the perfect base for him. From a timing perspective, Joe Mishak, We're looking at March 26th being today, as Joe had alluded to, as far as the timing and training. If you were to estimate in a perfect world of imperfections, we like to say here at MyRacehorse, what would be a potential return date to the races for this guy?
Yeah, I think, our goal has always been just, make sure he's good and fit and ready for the Del Mar meet. However, if things go well and he pleases us and Richard loves what he's seeing at the track, I mean, I'm sure there's a race like the Triple Bend, I think at the end of May might be a little aggressive. I think we're, about 60 days away from that type of race. Might be a little bit aggressive, but let's see how the horse comes back and reacts. And that's what we pay these top-notch trainers to give us their expert feedback, and let's see where we are in about 2 months.
Yeah, the one thing that I can take, and I'm sure that both Joe can attest to the fact that you have a horse who's had 5 career starts thus far. When you look at the timing, he had last raced on November 23rd, so it really hasn't been that long. And from tip to tail, you generally look at 3 months off, 3 months back. So the goal, I think, would be to maybe have a race prior to Del Mar, and then potentially look at maybe the Bing Crosby, perhaps the Pat O'Brien. But we're all hopeful the fact that the Breeders' Cup is right there at Del Mar this year, that it will be the perfect landing. So you have a horse coming back with fresh legs. He's training locally. It's just a simple ship from San Luis Rey to Del Mar, in which he thrived with last summer. All right, speaking of Bing Crosby, our comebacky in Collusion Illusion. I know that Joe Moran, you've been on top of the case with our trainer Mark Glatt, who has been so adept at keeping us updated. What's the latest with Collusion Illusion? Last seen in that Grade 1 Malibu, your Grade 1 winning son of Twirling Candy.
Yeah, so Collusion Illusion, he came back into Santa Anita on Tuesday afternoon. He shipped back in from right up the street in Bradbury at Sunshine Farms. And he's looking great. The one thing Mark said about him is when you can see in this video, he put on a lot of weight. He was a horse that's been in training for a good amount of time, so he was a very fit horse. Though he was only off for 60 days, he really benefited from that time. He put on good weight. The one thing Mark Glatt will do, he'll run him through a PET scan. It's a new modality that they have at Santa Anita, newer, similar to a nuke scan. That's going to give you almost a 3D imaging of the bone to see if there's any uptake in any parts of his body before he goes full training mode on him. So it's just precautionary. With a horse of this quality, he just wants to make sure he's 100% before he gets back onto the track. He's been tack walking at the barn the past 2 mornings. He's a happy horse. He's happy to be back, and you can see he's glad to be home. That's for sure.
Much like we saw with Vertical Threat, not necessarily in the sense that Vertical Threat proved they didn't have to take his track with him, having won on 3 different surfaces. Joe Mishak, when you take a look at Collusion Illusion, he's unbeaten at Del Mar, coming out of the Grade 1 Malibu, given time for some rest and recovery. Ultimately, would you say the Breeders' Cup Sprint is the goal for him? And as far as a landing for his return, would you say likely it would be at Del Mar in that perfect world?
100% agree. I kind of see us butting heads with these 2 horses, Vertical Threat and Collusion Illusion, a lot this summer, which should make for a lot of fun races. And obviously, we always say let's see how he comes back into training and how he goes from there. And I know Mark is excited about a number of options that he's been throwing around. And let's just see. But I would say that's probably a fair assessment that Del Mar would be the return for Collusion Illusion.
All right, Joe Moran, you'll keep us updated on that. Faye Fredericks has a question. Explain what uptake means. What does uptake entail?
Yeah, so this will be a term you'll hear, whether it's a nuke scan, a PET scan, and ultimately what the goal of those modalities are trying to find is to pinpoint any pressure on a horse. So when you see the results on a nuke scan, you'll see a darker black spot on the imaging, and in a PET scan, you'll see a darker red spot that's pinpointing where maybe the horse has more pressure in one spot rather than another. And in that case, that's what the uptake is, that the bones are showing more uptake in that specific spot on the horse.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the key is just having that complete understanding. And the one thing that I can appreciate, and it goes without being said, obviously, with MyRacehorse, is that we do take that tactical approach of erring on the side of caution. knowing that it's a 365 a day a year season, there's no rush. And obviously with Collusion Illusion, getting himself back into the swing of things, just making sure that the waters are calm and he's ready to ascend in a forward direction. Nikki Wallace chiming in. Joe Morant, does Collusion Illusion have a nickname in the barn?
Well, I'll say before MyRacehorse acquired him, good family friends with the Mark Glatt barn, so I've been very familiar with this horse from the first day he entered the Glatt barn from OBS April in 2019, and they've called him the big horse since the beginning. So he was always their top dog, so they call him the big horse back there.
I like it, and I don't expect that to change as he marches forward. Just a brief update. I know Joe Mishak, Psychedelic Shack, he graduated. I know he had a question that came in. He graduated to the next step in his program. How do things stand with Psychedelic Shack, that son of a Shackelford?
Yeah, doing well. Just getting back going up with Mike Schrader's program up there in upstate New York, and just taking it easy, going through the motions of getting back after a pretty lengthy layoff. And no news is good news at this stage of the game, and looking forward to him taking the next steps in his training here very shortly.
Yeah, the fact that we've taken that approach, obviously, in a sense that we understand that it is a long year. I mean, it's unlike other Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, and where they do have an off season. The one thing about horse racing, it doesn't have an off season, and we found ourselves. I can say as a former trainer, having dealt with owners in the past, so often you essentially have to give horses time off because you have to, not because it's the right thing. And the one thing that I can look at, just by way of the three horses that we've discussed, I mean, granted, time was needed to be given in order for them to come back at 100%. But I appreciate the fact that MyRacehorse puts the horse first and foremost. And as we'll discuss with American Heiress, it's been an incredible journey. From last year when she had the little stall incident there at King's Equine, and we got a message from Raul, I think it was at 10:30 at night when that occurred. There was a lightning storm that came through, but let's just hope that we can march forward and in a positive direction. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see these horses get into the swing of things. Psychedelic Shack, of course, looking for him to get back on track. And, those stake winnings, grade 1 winners, and Collusion Illusion and Vertical Threat to find his place back. All right. Yeah. Let's continue on with the show here. Just want to remind you, this is an interactive show. So if you've got questions that you'd like to post for any one of us, or just a general question, feel free to ask it, and it will post itself across the screen. All right. Let's bring Hannah back in, our All Things Social, who's done a wonderful job with her weekly interviews with horsemen around the country. But Hannah, your horse spotlight. You spent some time with the 2-year-olds at King's Equine. It was almost as if it was its own field trip in a fun sort of way. But who are we going to learn about today on that field trip, the horse spotlight?
So today we're going to learn about Dulcinea. I know that, like you said, the fun field trip we had at King's Equine, I definitely enjoyed myself. So these next few weeks, it'll be all about our 2-year-olds, just because I was able to actually get to meet them in person and see their personalities. So we have a video to show. Definitely, I would say out of all of our fillies there, I think was the sweetest. Although I will say every single one of our horses, from colts to fillies there, every one of them had a great personality that was super sweet. She's definitely very alert. You can kind of see she starts to paw a bit. She really likes the attention. So really great to see this. And to mention, she's by Bernardini out of Midnight Sweetie. So like I said, I'll keep filling everyone in on our 2-year-olds, but it was really great to see them all in person at King's Equine after posting about them for so long.
Is there any, to me, just based on her expression there, I kind of get the feeling that she might be a little bit of a troublemaker. Or is she, like her mother's name would say, is she a sweetie or is she a troublemaker?
I definitely got more of the sweetie side of things when I got to meet her. But maybe there's some mischievous side to her too. We always want to see that.
Absolutely. Well, again, I'm looking forward to her. I absolutely love the presence of the Midnight Loot on the dam side, being by Bernardini. So you've got the stretch, you've got the speed, and hopefully it will be the perfect complement. Well, we'll definitely look forward to these. I enjoy spotlights and you getting to know these horses better and telling us about your experience.
Definitely. And I was, to mention the backside banners I have been doing, I actually was able to talk to assistant trainer to Bill Mott, Riley Mott, his son, today. So he was really excited to have Dulcinea coming into their barn soon.
Absolutely. And we look forward to that and continued updates. So we'll be sure to expound a bit on those horse spotlights, if you will. And Hannah, I know that throughout the past couple of weeks, as Joe, myself, you, and of course Molly, I enjoyed even Abby Huffman. I enjoyed the interaction and the time, and we know the sales process can be so fast and furious. And as we move along, of course, with the Miami sale at Gulfstream next week, and then of course OBS April. The one thing I'll warn you: be sure to bring your
sunscreen,
your protection. Yes.
I gotta get a hat like you, but then I'd be competing with your hat style. So I think I'll leave the hat game to you.
You're in a race of your own. But it was an exciting adventure to say the least. I enjoyed always being part of the process, but with you and the ladies being there and kind of getting the background and the excitement took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being at OBS March. It was my first time, so excited to keep the swing of things with the sales season.
All right, so keeping in the swing with sales season, and of course, we were privileged to have had Dr. Jeffrey Burke come on board here a few weeks back. He was kind enough to let us behind the scenes as to what it's like to be a veterinarian during a 2-year-old in training sale, which is kind of its own ilk. But Hannah, you shadowed him for the day. What was it like?
Yeah, it was really great to see him, everything behind the scenes. Like you're saying, the 2-year-old sales it's a league of its own pretty much. I've only been to a yearling sale before, so it was really interesting to see. So I followed him the day after the undertack was finished, and I was able just to see once the client's given his list of what horses they need to go look at. He's either going to scope, he's going to watch it walk, and you're going to see this all in the video we have to show.
All right, let's check it out.
What we're doing when we're scoping these horses is trying to evaluate their throat function. And the reason that that's important is because the more oxygen a horse gets when it's racing and performing, the better that it can perform. We look for several things. We look for structural abnormalities or functional abnormalities. And so basically, you've got two sides to the throat, and ideally they should function similarly. So we're grading the throat for symmetry, for one thing. And so when the horse breathes in, the arytenoids open up maximally, and they should be able to hold. And then the horse breathes out, and the horse closes its throat down. So that's the left side of the throat there. And when we have abnormal function, it's 90% of the time it's on the left side of the throat. So those are the arytenoid cartilages that we're evaluating for symmetry and function. And then there's the epiglottis down below. And then you've got the epiglottis, which is at the bottom of the larynx and sticks forward. And that the function of it is to cover the airway when the horse is eating. But you want to make sure that that's a normal, healthy epiglottis that isn't going to impair the throat function. Sometimes the horse will displace their epiglottis. The epiglottis can be entrapped by a piece of tissue sometimes. So these are all the things that we look for. They also can get sick. They can have inflammation in the throat. We call it pharyngitis. And then this is the roof of the pharynx, and those little tiny pimples, which are basically white and innocuous, are fine. But when those get bigger and inflamed, we call that pharyngitis. When you start putting all these horses together in one place, it's like kindergarten. They can get each other a little sick, and usually it's no big deal. All right, that is good for me. Essentially, it's one part of our assessment of the suitability of the horse for racing. So we, on the scale, there are certain throats, grade 1, grade 2 throats that are fully functional and normal throats. Sometimes you'll see a horse with some impaired function of one side of its throat. where it's not able to fully open or hold. And of course, that plays into our evaluation of the horse. Of course, in conjunction with that, we do a complete physical examination of the horse, make sure that the eyes are normal, listen to the heart, make sure that there's no heart murmurs or abnormalities of the cardiac rhythm, palpate the limbs. You know, we're looking for things like whether the horse has got a set of shins from the work, whether they have a splint. Usually, if they have one, it's quite old and not significant. Any filling in the joints, filling in the ankles, things like that. And again, not necessarily that that's going to preclude somebody from buying one of these horses, but it might go along with the X-ray findings, where if you see a little bit of ankle filling and a little bit of looking on the top of the first pastern bone, you'd say, well, you know, this horse is probably going to be fine, but probably also could use a period of rest, whereas other horses may not need to stop training, they just be able to train forward. So essentially that's what we're doing. And then of course we pair the physical examination and the exam of the throat with the review of the radiographs in the repository to see if there are any abnormalities in any of the joints, knees, ankles, hocks, stifles. And then we put all that information together. And then of course that conversation happens with the potential buyer, perhaps their trainer, their agent. So we have a full conversation to try to put everything that we found into perspective.
Absolutely. I think, you know, it's one of those, Hannah, for me, that never gets old, because this is one of those that is so intricate, crucial in the purchasing aspect. When you're at these sales, you could be at a sale in which you're looking at short yearlings. You could even, you know, fast forward it to a private purchase. Say, for example, when you go through the acquisition process, all horses are different. They can tolerate things differently. But at the end of the day, you know, essentially having Dr. Burke go through these horses with a fine-tooth comb at least limits the fact that you could potentially have some issue going forward. And, you know, there's the old saying, there's no such thing as a perfect horse. But believe it or not, there are horses at these sales that they absolutely vet out perfectly, and you find nothing on X-ray. But, you know, you look at a horse like Justify, who the reports are that he failed 4 vet exams, but the horse went on to win the Triple Crown. So it's almost a judgmental call, but I know on behalf of MyRacehorse, we take every step forward to invest in the future of that horse to make sure that we have a horse that is 100% sound. All right, Jeffrey Burke, thank you very much. And we'll continue with those little snippets of the sales process, and whether it be with the inspection process, whether it involves us, the inspectors, perhaps Joe Moran, Joe Mishak, myself, or even indeed with the veterinarian, Dr. Jeffrey Burke. All right, I want to bring the boys back in, and we want to talk about the long-awaited debut of our American Heiress. She will be setting stage tomorrow at Gulfstream Park. It is a huge card, a 14-race card, which is highlighted by the Curlin Florida Derby. It's the 14th race on the card, but for our race, our featured event will be smack dab in the middle, and American Heiress will be going postward in race number 7. She's post position number 9. She's been dispatched as your second choice at 4-1. So, Joe Mishak, you've had an opportunity not only to keep tabs on her workouts, but has she not been breezing with Cadencia, who's been dispatched as your 7-2 morning line favorite?
She did. She her latest work was with Cadencia, and quite frankly, I think American Heiress kind of got the best of her a little bit. Obviously, Cadencia is the most experienced filly of the field with I believe 5 career starts and some of the highest figures. So it was kind of nice to see a filly that has some nice running lines established, and then our filly who hasn't obviously made a start yet go kind of toe to toe in a little pre-race matchup. Obviously, as we've alluded to in this show in the past, some of these bigger barns in the mornings, they kind of are their own little match races. To get them to where where they are on race day. So very, very fun, very exciting to see, and very encouraged by how in hand American Heiress has been in most of her workouts. Definitely a filly that kind of does it all on her own, and looks like that she has a lot left in the tank. I mean, something that excited to see, considering that we're debuting around 2 turns and not sprinting first time out.
Well, out of a multiple graded stake winning dam, Kirtana, who won in excess of $1 million in her career and was a multiple graded stakes winner, she didn't break her maiden until career start number 3. Incidentally, was a race that was taken off the turf at Arlington Park back in 2008. Tom Proctor, the trainer of note. Kirtana, she's had 2 foals to race, 2 winners. American Heiress will be the 3rd. Joe Moran, from a wagering standpoint, we know that due to her popularity and the 2,000 plus partners, likely we're not going to get much bargain on the top end. But when you look at this race, knowing what the American Pharaohs have done on turf early on, he's 10% as a first out win sire. With the pace dynamic of this race, I think there's some speed. How do you see things setting up? And at 1 1/16 on turf, would you expect her to be forwardly placed on debut?
It's a very tough question for me to answer. I mean, a first-time starter, you just truly never know. From her works, we've been impressed. If you've tuned into the Wednesday work show, every time she's worked, she's caught her eye. But a first-time starter going 1 1/16, training styles are a little bit different in Florida. I'm a California boy. I'm born and raised in Southern California, and the training styles in Southern California. The one thing for me, and obviously I'm a rooter of American Heiress, but the one thing that's hard for me to truly grasp is she's going 1 1/16, first time out. She has not worked above a half mile. So to me, that's the only concern that I can see. But Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher, he knows what he's doing. He knows this horse is ready. When you see her work, she looks plenty fit. She does it all in hand. But to me, that's one of the biggest concerns. So from a pace dynamic, she seems pretty keen in her works to go. So I think she is going to show some type of early speed. I don't think she's going to be on the front end by any means, but I think she'll be in a tactical position.
All right. Joe Mishak, as you look at the overall basis of the field, is there one particular horse that stands out in your mind? It is interesting to note that she comes in with the highest price tag. Do note that you do have the 5-horse, No Ordinary Time, who's had 3 starts to break its maiden, Shug McGahee, training for the Allen Stable Incorporated. On paper, I think she's the one to beat. I do like that recent workout at Payson. But who do you think is the horse to beat in this case? And would you expect the Christophe Clement trainee, community adjusted, to move forward?
I would on both situations. The 5-horse No Ordinary Time is a horse that I did also put underneath is one I expect to be forwardly placed and hopefully provide a target for American Heiress. I expect American Heiress to break well. I think it's a perfect setup for her to get that first race experience. I think she'll be on the outside, so she'll lose a little bit of ground, I think, but she'll sit a perfect stalking spot. And I also like the 12-horse Unshakable You. If you look, the last time she moved up, first time on turf, she popped her best race of her career. So maybe turf was just what the doctor ordered in that race. And I would say the Clement horse, obviously, coming off the layoff at Saratoga. Anytime you get Tyler Gaffleone going on the turf, it's always a positive experience for that horse. Certainly rides the Gulfstream turf better than anyone I call in recent memory. But to just go back to Joe Moran's comment, because as I was poring over the past performances, I was thinking the same exact thing in terms of training on the East Coast versus the West Coast. And I noticed that not only American Heiress, but also a lot of these other fillies in this race haven't gone past half-mile workouts. And from a training perspective, Nick, can you shed some light into the shareholders out there of the 2 different maybe training styles that you might get out on different coasts, why you're not seeing maybe 5-6 furlong works before a 2-turn race?
Well, I think first and foremost, if you look at the style of training for, say, for example, Todd Pletcher and even Christophe Clement in that case, as we kind of allude back to a quick conversation in her debut, which was quite nice here a few weeks back. I think it's twofold. The fact that she is actually going turf first time out. The feeling is that you may not need, and turf long, mind you, but you may not need as much from a work standpoint as you do from a foundational gallop standpoint. There are many of those trainers that train, whether it's east or west, but primarily in the east, they tend to get a lot more out of their gallops, essentially more 2-minute licks or 2-minute miles, if you will, as opposed to just the 1.25 mile conventional 1.25 mile, 1.5 mile gallop. So I think in Todd Pletcher's case, I think he's relying heavily upon the fact that she's had that foundation. And once again, kudos to King's Equine. And look, if she weren't fit in his mind to get 1.16 miles on turf first time out, she wouldn't be in this particular race. Now, the best part of this situation is that we have no idea what we have. I mean, it's the old box of chocolates, right? We anticipate her to run well. We hope that she'll go out there and run a winning race. But I think from a training perspective, it really comes down to the day-to-day versus the actual workouts that Todd gets out of his horses. We saw that with his mentor, D. Wayne Lucas, back in the day.
Great, 100%.
All right, so don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow, post time, approximately 2:27 Eastern. That's 11:27 here on the left coast. We'll have a live show which kicks off at approximately 11 o'clock. I'll be here. I'll be there right with you. And, of course, we'll be interactive showing. So feel free to set your reminders, set your alarms, and let's hope that American Heiress gets a good night's rest tonight and she'll come out firing on all cylinders tomorrow. Joe Mishak, while I have you, I know that there have been some questions coming in reference to the leases. It's, I know, kind of a broad question, but do you have some answers for us?
Broad questions, broad answers, right? Obviously, we're still waiting from the SEC. Obviously, lots of new things going on with the new administration, unfortunately taking a little bit longer than we're all accustomed to. We're just as eager as the rest of you out there to get these horses out and available to you as soon as we can. And obviously working on some additional horses through private sales, and obviously at the sales that'll be under the more traditional MyRacehorse offerings that you're all used to. So definitely knocking down doors as much as we can, and let's just hope it's as soon as possible.
All right. Well, thank you for that answer. And I want to welcome back in Hannah, and, of course, keep Joe Moran right with us. And I guess the reference topic is avid handicappers. Are we looking at terminologies here? Is that word? Of course we are. And that terminology is the bounce. You often hear this horse is coming off of a career best. He is in danger range of the bounce. Hannah, Joe, tell us about the bounce. Hannah, Joe?
I'm here. I don't know if Hannah's here. I was going to let Hannah take it, but the terminology, the bounce, we hear it very often, whether you're looking at the DRF, your classic PPs, you're looking at the Thoroughgraph, the Ragozin, and pretty much in simple terms, the bounce is when a horse, as you mentioned, runs a career best or drastically improves on paper. Generally, it is going to be hard for them to replicate that performance. And I think there was a great example. We have a few examples for you, but Joe Mishak was actually just talking about a horse in American Heiress's race. It was the 12 horse who first time on turf had such a drastic increase in Beyer. Now, there's two ways to look at it. A lot of people will tell you, the first time a horse runs on a new surface or a new distance, that's going to be their best effort. So you could look at the horse wants to love the turf, and that could be, a new ball game for that horse, or that horse could bounce. So I know there's a few examples coming here. And Hannah, I think she's back with us. If she wants to take it over, she can.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that, guys. I went into my full explanation in the beginning, and I was muted. So sorry about that. But again, yes, looking at the graphic, and thank you to Joe Moran for helping me out there. But I don't want to re-explain what he's explained, but we do have some examples here. So looking at a horse like Thorn, you can see that his Beyer speed figure was a 66, and previously before that, it was a 38. So you would call this a career best performance, the one where he ran a 66. This is a prime candidate for a bounce because of the increased Beyer number and then the layoff he had. And then This is what we would call a thoroughgraph sheet. I'm not sure if anyone's as used to looking at this, but his previous race he ran a 22.5, and then the race where we saw the bounce, it was 11 1/4. So that's a huge difference, and this is a horse screaming what you'd call a bounce. We have another horse. This is Slam Dunk. When looking at his buyer speed figure, 55 was the previous race, and then in the most recent race at Gulfstream Park, an 82. So that's a huge, huge difference. Another career best performance. And then to look at the sheet again, previous race was I'm sorry, I'm trying to read from far away, but a 17, and then the most recent race was a 5. So like I said before, this would be a career best number, a substantially higher number than the last 2 races where he even broke his maiden by 5 lengths. But the 5 with his most recent start is what we would call a bounce. And then when you're handicapping, this is showing that it'd be really hard for the horse to replicate this again. So I'll ask Moran and Nick to kind of go into more detail on this with the handicapping side, but when you're handicapping, you would definitely take a note to that bounce number with knowing that it might be hard to replicate again.
Yeah, I'll take it from there. Obviously, if we were to bring that graphic back up on Slam Dunk and just bring up the DRFPP, thank you for that, and my good friend Molly behind the scenes. So as you can ascertain, you go back to the November 7th race at Churchill. That horse, let's just put it from a pure buyer standpoint, that horse earned a career best 77 buyer speed figure. For me, visually, the fact that this horse only had 2 races in 2020 and arguably were the poorest races this horse ran, evidently the previous trainer, Rodolphe Brizet, was having some issue keeping this horse sound. So the fear would be, and if we could fast forward that thoroughgraph sheet with Slam Dunk and Shug McGahee doing a tremendous job in bringing this horse back. If you bring up that thoroughgraph sheet once again, where this horse earned a 5, that number there, essentially recovery time, when you're seeing a horse coming off of a career best speed figure, they generally require 6 weeks. So a horse coming off a career top, you don't want to run back within that 6 weeks time. Now, from another sheet's perspective, if you're a Ragozin advocate, many feel that when a horse comes off a career best, if you run back within 7 days, you can alleviate that bounce. So it's horse to horse, and obviously the effort that's being put forth, you have to be wary of the potential bounce. And you see it often when horses come stateside from Europe, or say they come in from the Southern Hemisphere, not that they would run right away because they have to acclimatize, but horses are in kind of danger zone of the bounce. Joe Moran, anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I think you covered it great there. I mean, it's just one of those things. The bounce is a huge factor. I mean, I definitely think it's more evident on sheets here when I see a big drastic move from like a 17 3/4 to a 5. And then you see this horse come back in less than 30 days. To me, this horse was screaming to bounce. I believe he ended up running 4th, beating 8 or so lengths last Saturday. Integrated stakes, but my guess is if you saw that thoroughgraph number come back, he probably ran back in the 8 or 9, which still is a solid number, but a clear regression from that 5.
Right, and that 8 or 9 could be very well good enough to win that particular race. So,
yep.
I love the terminology subject matter for the week here with the bounce possibility. So let's hope that for those that are going forward this weekend, American Heiress will put up a big performance, and she won't bounce in career start. Number 3, she'll continue that progression. All right. Well, Hannah, as always, thank you. Wonderful job. Joe Moran, salute to you, sir. Keep up the good work. And of course, with Edge Racing, and congratulations to you with Yes this time with a big win going back-to-back last weekend for Kelly Rain. So congratulations going out to those Edge partners, and onward and upward for Yes this time. That does conclude another week of My Racehorse Live. We certainly appreciate you tuning in today. Also want to remind you that Bella Chica, well, she'll be taking center stage today at Santa Anita. And best of luck to our partner in Ty Green. That race is slated for race number 7 today at Santa Anita, approximate post 4:15. She's been dispatched at 4-1 on the morning line under Jose Valdivia Jr. And again, a reminder that tomorrow American Heiress, the live show, will have the party for you right here. I'll be tuning in and signed on 11 o'clock Pacific, 2 o'clock for you folks out there in the East Coast and Central, at approximately 1 o'clock. Sleep well, enjoy the rest of your day, and look forward to an exciting weekend with My Racehorse. Thank you to everyone for making this show possible, and a special salute going out to you, the My Racehorse shareholder. Without you, there is no us. Until next time, we'll see you in the winner's circle.